Okay. Well, my name is Jasmin. I grew up in Germany, in the south of Germany, in Stuttgart. It's known for the best cars in the world. Porsche and Mercedes-Benz are engineered in my city. And the funny thing is that all the taxis in Germany are Mercedes-Benz. So, for us, these luxury cars are not very luxury, they're like normal. And especially, you should never ever get a Mercedes-Benz in silver because that's what all the retired people drive. Just, to let you know. Because that's just a retired people car. I moved to New York 6 years ago, well, 5.5. And I didn't expect to be here that long. I was supposed to be here just for 1 year for a traineeship after university. And then I liked it and I kind of hustled my way here. It's New York, you gotta hustle. Now I work at the UN. It sounds very prestigious, but it's just work. But I can't complain. I'm in a good place right now. But I think it's time for a change in the near future. So I don't know how long I will stay a citizen of New York at this point. But New York is great. I mean, it's very international. It's so diverse. I wouldn't even call it a part of the United States because it feels so different to the rest of the United States. Yeah, you barely get to meet people that grew up in New York around here. Mostly people are from all over the world. I mean, maybe it also has to do with that I work at the United Nations and it's very international. But I find it hard to meet people that actually grew up in New York. And I understand because, New York is very expensive to live and it's very loud and the daily life is hard in New York. Like just going to the grocery store, it's I don't know, it's different than in other cities because usually you don't own a car, so you have to carry all the groceries back home and I don't know. I feel like daily life is more exhausting than in other cities in New York. But yeah, I mean, I ended up in New York. I've been here for 6 years. I still like it. I'm just not sure if my future will be in New York at this point. I don't know where I will end up because everything is very open right now. I just came back from a Euro trip. I was in Europe for the past 3 weeks and I really liked the south of France. It was very relaxing, the people were very nice, the weather was great. But I also liked Berlin. I was only there for 24 hours, but I had been there before and Berlin is very urban. It's similar to New York, but of course much smaller. And it didn't really feel like the typical or stereotypical Germany in Berlin to me. Like we were riding the train, the subway, and nobody really spoke German. It was amazing. Everybody either spoke English or it was a lot of Arabic speaking people. And it's very interesting there. So I don't know, maybe Berlin because I would be at home in Germany, but not in a small city where I grew up. And I mean, of course, I would have to see job-wise if there's any opportunities, but you never know. So I studied international business with a focus on the Middle East. And it's very interesting, actually. I did an exchange semester in Damascus in Syria in 2009. Like 1.5 years before the whole civil war started. It was, we were the first exchange students to go to Syria. And they kind of tricked us to go there. They advertised this cool new exchange program. They just showed us pictures of the private university in the south of Damascus. And they had a girl that was doing an internship there telling us how it was like the greatest experience of her life. And it just sounded so exotic and I didn't want to do an exchange semester as all students going to, I don't know, Paris or London or DC, I don't know, like something regular. So I applied and we were 4 German students going to Damascus and 4 Syrian students coming to our university, and we were staying for 6 months. And I mean, I must say now in retrospect, it was the greatest. I think it was one of the greatest experiences of my life because it was so different, but it was definitely not as they advertised it to us. You know, we get to university and we were signing up for was it data research, and we get to class and the professor is speaking Arabic, so we're taking data research in Arabic. Yeah, that's impossible. I mean, so the books were in English and the course was supposed to be in English, but the level of English of the Syrian students was too bad. So the teacher would speak in Arabic for 15 minutes explaining whatever's going on, and then he would ask an English question and you're like, well, I'm sorry, but I didn't understand the past 15 minutes of what you were talking about, so I cannot answer the question. And what happened was we were skipping most of the time, so we were skipping class, and we were just studying with the book and went back to the exam, which was hilarious also because most of the students were cheating. And I mean, it was a totally different way of university than what you were used to in Germany. But so I studied international business. I didn't study politics, even though I ended up at the UN, but honestly, it was more of a coincidence than a plan, because I came to New York. I was working for the German government. I was working for the Bavarian US offices, and they do economic development marketing, location marketing for the German state of Bavaria. And I was supposed to be there just for 1 year. So I never, you know, my family, when I left, I was just like, yeah, you know, I'm going to be doing this for 1 year and then I'll be back in Germany. But things just turned out a little bit different. And after that 1 year, I didn't want to leave New York because it was amazing. It was adventurous. I was young. Everything was great. And I was looking for a different job. And I've always been very good at making connections and having like a big personal network of interesting people. And I had this friend, he was a soccer player. He played for the Dutch national team, and he was in Miami for his summer break. And I went to Miami to party with him. And at the Fontainebleau pool party, I met, it was his friend's friend, or his friend who was also a soccer player, his older brother, and he is actually the ambassador of Suriname. So we just started talking, but we didn't really exchange numbers or anything. But on my flight back to New York, I ended up being on the same flight as the ambassador. And he was like, oh, you know, my driver's gonna pick me up. If you wanna catch a ride to Manhattan, I'll just drop you off wherever. So I hitchhiked with the Surinamese ambassador back to the city, and we just kind of started talking a little bit. And I was like, yeah, you know, my time in New York's about to come to an end, but I don't want to leave. And he was like, you know what? Give me your phone number. I'll see what I can do. And he texted me a few weeks later, and he was like, you want to come to this National Day reception of Qatar? And I was like, yeah, sure. What do I have to wear? You know? And he's like, just anything. Just, I mean, you know, not too sexy, but, you know, whatever. Classic. So his driver picked me up to go to the National Day reception of Qatar, which was in a very, I don't remember where it was, but it was a very nice, prestigious building. They had a crazy big buffet. I remember lobster and big shrimps, and I kind of felt out of place, you know, as this little blonde girl accompanying this old, I mean, he's not very old, but in his 50s ambassador. But it was fun. So I was at the buffet, and then this other guy next to me started talking to me. He's like, oh, how do you like the shrimp? And I was like, oh, it's great. And he was the alternate ambassador for Dominican Republic. And we exchanged cards, and to make a long story short, that's the reason why I'm still here, because I met him, and he had a private news company at that time who needed an executive assistant. So I started working with them for 1.5 years, and once you're kind of like in that UN circle, you get to know other people, And I happened to get to know this random girl that doesn't even work at the Austrian mission anymore. But she told me that they were looking for somebody. She didn't even know what exactly the position was. She was like, "Oh, you're a German speaker. You know, I work for the permanent mission of Austria. We're looking for somebody to join our team. Just, I mean, why don't you send your CV?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, great. Why not? I mean, you know." And I sent my CV. I went to the interview. I didn't really know what I was applying for. And they were like, "Oh, we kind of think you might be overqualified for the position, but let's see, maybe we can work out something." And here I am, 3 years later, still working for the Austrian mission. And I'm German. But, you know, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., I'm Austrian. But on the weekends, I'm still German. So, as you know, I'm German. And I think the number one thing we're unfortunately still known in the world for, of course, after producing the best cars in the world, and I don't get paid by Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, believe me, but still, yeah, we do have the best cars in the world, is World War II and Hitler, unfortunately. As all of you know, of course, Hitler was not German. I always gotta make that point. You know, he was Austrian, but yeah, I mean, Germany, we did cause the First and the Second World War. And that's why until today, the German people, as well as the Austrians, are paying for the crimes they did onto the Jews. It's called reparations. I don't know how exactly it works and how big the amount is that survivors of concentration camps or their family members, daughters, sons. I'm not sure how that exactly works, but I know it's still ongoing, and a certain amount of the tax that Germans pay every year goes to reparations, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. You know, it's been so many years that has happened, and for me personally, even my grandparents were not involved in it. My one grandma, she was 1 when the war started. My other grandma was like 6 or 7, so she was in 1st grade. Like, even my grandparents didn't participate in it. And but yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, the most atrocious crime of the century or of history. I'm not sure. But if you look at, you know, what's going on in the world, if you look at Somalia or all these different countries where people are getting killed, and it's just, I don't know. I think the media maybe doesn't have the same interest as they have in World War II, even though it's such a long time ago. I mean, I think, especially in America, World War II is such a big thing. If you turn on History Channel, I think every day there's a documentation of some sort of World War II. But I definitely don't want to, you know, say it was not a horrible thing that the Germans did, because it was, and we did. And we didn't just only kill Jews. It was also disabled people. It was Roma. It was anybody who was against the regime. It was gay people. I mean, anybody who didn't agree or didn't fit into the picture, they had to go. And it was horrible, because, you know, you are who you are, and everybody should have the same rights and the same freedoms. But that's not what Hitler's ideology was. So I think it's great that the German government is doing something to still, you know, I guess, send a signal or send a message that even though it's such a long time ago, it happened, and we still have to pay for it. It's right. I do agree with that. But I don't think that I personally, just because I'm German, I should feel guilty, because I was not part of it. And yeah, I did not participate in it. And I've, you know, it's such a long time ago. Because when we grow up in school in Germany, the Holocaust is on the curriculum every year, and you kind of, you learn it over and over, and so that it never happens again. But they try, sometimes it feels like they're trying to make you feel guilty for something that you didn't do and you didn't participate in and you totally disagree with. So, we went to visit a concentration camp. I don't remember how old it was, maybe in 8th grade, something like that, maybe even younger. And it was horrific. You see the sight and they tell you, there were these big ovens and they were saying there was a dark smoke cloud over the city day and night because they were burning bodies. Like the ovens were constantly burning bodies because they were killing so many people. And it's just unbelievable that somebody from your own country would be able to do something like that. But I think you should still be able to be proud to be German, which is kind of like a critical thing in Germany. You can be proud to be German during the soccer World Cup. You can wave your flags and everything. But usually, if you are proud to be German, people think that you're like a neo-Nazi or something like that. Like, to be proud of your country is very critical in Germany. And I think that's wrong, because we have accomplished a lot of great things. We have come back from the war. Like, our economy, our whole country was destroyed. There was nothing. And look at us now. Look at Angela Merkel. She's basically the leader of the Western world ever since, what happened to America with Trump. She's the only one defending the freedom of the Western world. So we have come a long way. And I think it's okay to be German. I think it's okay to be proud to be German without having a negative connotation.